Hey everybody, David from Flash by V Cycle Nut here. Honda saw fit to finally import the Honda CB750 Hornet in here to the United States, and I figured I gotta get one. So before I get too rolling on the video, I wanted to introduce myself. I am David from Flash by V Cycle Nut. I am owner, operator, flasher, tuner, all things related to Flash by V Cycle Nut. I've been in business since 2012, and in that time I've done over 10,000 mail-in ECU flashes. So it makes me one of the original companies designing ECU flashes, and also makes me one of the largest. If you search around, you find pretty much nothing but great feedback about both my tunes and my customer service, which means I'm good at what I do, and I take care of my customers. So what my business model is a little different than most companies. I specialize in about a dozen motorcycles. I don't do everyone out. When I decide that I'm going to attack a platform, I go out, I buy the motorcycle, I test it all stock, ride it stock. I got a couple hundred miles already on this, getting to know it, strengths and weaknesses, and then I tune it all stock, and then I just start modifying, putting different exhausts on it, and develop custom mapping for each of those setups. So I've set my sights on doing that for this new Honda Hornet. So let's get what my initial impressions and what my initial review is of the motorcycle. Last thing I want to talk about before we get into the motorcycle is what separates my tuning philosophy from most of my competitors, and that is simply that I add a ton of street testing into all of my mapping. So that means I hook data logging equipment to the bike. I ride the bike in real road conditions under real loads, not on just spinning that drum on the dyno where my MT-07 is sitting right now. And this allows me to really precisely tune and map out all of the throttle positions and all of the RPMs much more precisely and better than you can do on a dyno tune alone. So don't settle for mail-in flashes that are only done on the dyno. Make sure you get one that's got some road tuning on it also. All right, enough of me beating my own drum. So this is the new Honda CB750. You may not know it, but the CB750 name goes all the way back to 1969 when Honda introduced an inline four. It was was their first larger displacement motorcycle. And if you look at a picture of it, it'd be sad to see that at that time it was considered a super bike, and really paved the way for a lot of really other groundbreaking motorcycles. I wouldn't call this motorcycle groundbreaking, but it is significant in that Honda has finally acknowledged the fact that the parallel twin medium and mid-size motor market is very popular in the United States, and they needed to get their foot in here, and man, they've really done a banging job. Just a script to the end. The bike's amazing. Really takes it to the competition, in my opinion, at this point, even stock. So just like I said, I do have an MT-07, a 25 MT-07, and that one I've started the development on. I've got exhaust on it, different intake stuff. But once I get some development work on this, I will do some back-to-back comparisons, grab a friend or two that rides, and we'll do some back-to-back rides, and we'll do a real fair comparison. I no longer have my GSX-8, but I did own one for a couple years, did a lot of mapping on that, and I think stock, it's been a while since I rode one, but I think stock, this thing has every bit of motor, and I just think it feels like a better package. So let's get into it. So the looks are always a bit personal opinion taste, right? But I think it'd be hard to say that this is not a good looking bike. It's definitely a little bit of GSX-8 and the angles of the front end. Got a nice little tail section, and will look a lot better with it when we put a fender eliminator on it. No stock exhaust ever, looks great, but they got the angle right. It matches. I like that, how it matches the rear subframe. I do wish the rear subframe unbolted instead of just welded on, but overall, you know, kind of a little bit of a zit with that with the horn out there, but overall really a nice looking package. I like how all the bolts are also blacked out. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a little bit of metal in this black. It's not just flat, and it's really a sharp looking bike. And so looks wise, I give it a nice high score, probably a 9 out of 10. The tech package on this bike is also pretty significant. It is a fly-by-wire bike, and what that means is it allows us to have a quick shifter and auto blipper on it. So clutchless downshifts and clutchless upshifts. One of the things I've complained about on the MT-07 is it doesn't come stock with a quick shifter auto blipper. You can buy one for it, but it's about another $500. And considering that the CB750 is already $500, approximately $500 cheaper to start with, I think this really bodes well for the Honda. Also, got a very nice TFT dash, and we got different power modes, and we have different levels. They call it torque control. I'll explain that in a second. And different levels of engine braking setting. So let's go through the dash a little bit. Some things I really like, a couple things I've been not so happy with. So it's a relatively simple layout. We got the mode button here that adjusts the different rider modes. And so we have, you can see we have rain, user 1, user 2, standard, and sport. One of the things that I don't like is you can only go one direction. So I like to use user defined 1 and user defined 2, but I can't just go back and forth. I got to go all the way around to get to it. And why that's significant is if I just want to change something like the torque control, and I have to go in ahead of time and set it. And so to go scroll through all of them, and not a huge deal, but I got to click it like 5 times instead of just once if it could go up and down. Speaking of the rider modes, let's look at how you adjust them. So you got this kind of unique looking little thing. It goes up, down, all around. So if we go over and push it to the right and then scroll down, we get to the gears, which usually means settings. If we click it over to the right, we will see function and riding modes. And then when we keep going to the right, it allows us to adjust them. So right now I have rider mode 1 set for full power mode, the electronic braking at a level of 1, and the torque control at a level of 1 also. If I go down to use it to go down to mode 2, you can see I have still the power at full, the engine braking at 3, and still the torque control at 1. The other modes of the rain, the street, and normal are all preset, and you can adjust them. They're just set to what they are. So I do like it. It has 3 different power modes, and I can tell the difference between them. Mode 1 is pretty snappy and aggressive. Mode 2 is pretty smooth, and then mode 3, or which is the rain mode, is really soft and what you would expect for a rain mode. Haven't had it on the dyno yet to see what the peak output looks like on them all, but to me, the mode 1 and mode 2 power modes felt about the same as far as power delivery. They call instead of traction control, we got torque control, and why is that? That's because the wheelie control and the real wheel speed control are all in one setting. I did find even on a level of 1 that it was pretty obtrusive, that it wouldn't, like I have a little gravel road that leads up to my house, and if I wanted to just do a little, power slide on it, even with it on 1, it would cut it in pretty quickly. Same thing with doing a wheelie, front wheel off the ground a little bit, it would just really cut it down. So for me, there's gonna be no reason to ever go above 1. Just like this, just like on any other bike I have that has the rider aids, every time, if you want a traction control, or in this case torque control off, you have to do it every single time. So it would look like something coming over to this menu, highlighting the torque control, putting it to 0, and then backing out of it and putting yourself in that rider mode and not turning off the key. If you turn off the key, it will reset itself back to the lowest level of traction control or torque control and not off. You also have the dash is fairly configurable with a lot of settings. It didn't take me too hard to figure out. There's 3 different, you can have it with this bar graph, you can have a round tack, or you can have no tack. One of the things I found odd is it doesn't have a water temperature. You have to go into the menus, like pretty far into the menus, to find display. There we go, air temp. It's somewhere in here, and that's how silly it is to get to the water temperature. And I'm sure it'll kick up a warning if it gets too high, but for me, when I'm on the dyno, I like to pay attention to the water temperature and dyno all my stuff around the same water temperature. So that's gonna be kind of a pain in the butt for me to get to every time. And why you couldn't have that just configurable, and maybe I'm wrong. If somebody wants to point out where I'm wrong and they can configure it so that the water temperature comes up here, I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, it's got a fuel gauge. It seems pretty progressive and linear. It didn't seem like it held on the full too long and then started to drop like a rock. It seemed like it worked pretty well. I got a typical horn button, self-canceling turn signals, and they didn't feel the need to reinvent the turn signal button. I know this sounds silly, but the turn signal button on the new Yamahas is absolutely horrible. This conventional, there's a setting in there you can turn the automatics on or off. And you got a nice little set of hazard lights. I'm not sure why every bike doesn't have them. That's really cool. So only, like I said, all my nitpicks are I wish you could toggle back and forth between the modes, not just in one direction. Wish it was a little easier to turn off traction control. I wish it did have a display for the water temperature, but otherwise, nice display and works pretty well. There are different settings for the quick shifter auto blipper. I have it on firm. I still feel at like full throttle it could be firmer and quicker, but for me it was the best settings of them. I'm finding the quick shifter to work very well. Auto blipper, occasionally at lower speeds I'll get like a little blurp of the throttle where it will kind of lurch me forward, but it's only been a few times, and maybe as the bike breaks in that will go away. We also have the high beam, which we went up and to pass, so really nice bike with features that really work well. I found the brakes to be strong and progressive. We have these pedal style rotors with Nissan radial calipers, a conventional front master cylinder with just adjustments for where the lever's at. I found it to be strong, work really well. And I found the front suspension, though it's not adjustable, to be really good so far. It's really pretty common for a bike in the first few 100,000 miles or so for the suspension to feel pretty good, and sometimes they get a little boingy. So far feels really good. A lot of support for trail braking and just braking hard. Rear brake was adequate, nice and large. So very happy with the brakes on it so far. Again, only done a couple hundred miles of street riding, but I did run pretty hard yesterday through some roads, and it felt really good. Seat's a little angled forward, but not too bad. I didn't have any sliding in the nut bash problems on this like I have on some bikes. The handlebar to seat ratio is quite reasonable. Got a nice little bit about a lift up there, and I found the seating position to be quite neutral and comfortable. Another nitpick is they use these very narrow diameter bars. Like, why would you care about that? Because my phone holder, it clamps onto here, and it doesn't have a clamp small enough. I'm sure I can figure something out. I also have one that fits into the steering stem, but again, it's right under the bar, so that won't work. So I'll need to get something for a phone holder so that I can do my onboard clips. Mirrors work good, nice and wide, good view from behind you, and nice beefy swing arm. It would be cool if they put this package into a sport bike like the GSX-8 SR or the R7. I think they'd have a winner on their hands, though the frame kind of not the greatest looking frame, but not horrible. But I do like that they put like these overlays here, so instead of the black painted frame getting scratched over time, I think this is just color coded all the way through plastic, so that won't scratch. Nice little touch. Yeah. This is a Euro 5 compliant bike, so it does have two O2 sensors in it that when we start tuning we will disable. If you're not sure about that, why I would do that, and you think the O2 sensors are helping the bike, I have another video that I'll link to in the description explaining why we always disable the O2 sensors. Tail section, I think it's nice and sharp and angular. I like the little sticker mark here with the little red accent. I'll do my best to remove those warning things later. Everything else, I'm really happy with it. The bike has a really good pull off the bottom, kind of a little flattens out towards the top, but you'd expect this with the stock mapping. Overall, I think that the throttle response is pretty decent on it for a Euro 5 bike. I mean, their hands are tied, right? They have to meet all the regulations, which usually makes it an extremely on and off feeling with the throttle. Or like what they did on the MT-07 and the GSX-8 is they just made the initial throttle opening so slow that it just bugs the crap out of me because I'm turning the throttle, it feels like forever and nothing happens. Especially in mode 1 and the power mode 1, it doesn't have this. It really is pretty much feels normal as far as the amount of twist that you need. And while at the lower RPMs, and these parallel twin mills always are a little lumpy in the lower RPMs, and this is no different as far as it's really kind of hard. I always have to do some very specific mapping to smooth it out in the lower RPM so that your on and off throttle doesn't just feel herky-jerky. And in mode 1, it is pretty herky-jerky in the lower RPMs. But once you get in the upper RPMs, surprisingly enough for a stock motorcycle, I thought it was pretty good. So the motor, and as it feels right now by me, seat of the pants, I'm going to guess it's the strongest of the three, way stronger than the MT-07, and I'm going to guess it's a little bit stronger than my GSX-8. I have all three Once I dyno this, I'll do extensive dyno testing over the coming week and post them all up as far as what the different power modes, what the different gears look like, and then how it compares to the MT-07 and GSX-8. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that this thing is going to stomp all over the MT-07 power-wise. It doesn't quite have the small, nimble feel of the MT-07, but I think it's a nice compromise between the GSX-8 and the MT-07 as far as feel. If you're thinking about getting one of these types of bikes, a parallel twin, you definitely owe yourself to look at this. Price-wise, again, it was fine. It's the cheapest of the three. It was like almost $1,000 cheaper than GSX-8 and $500 cheaper than the MT-07. And I did get them to come down a couple $100 off of the MSRP. So, yeah, so I think for value-wise, motorcycle-wise, I think this bike will cater to both relatively new riders and to experienced riders. And I think once I really get rolling on this platform, that this thing is really going to be a hoot, because it's already a lot of fun and very responsive. Oh, I almost forgot. This is just absolutely awesome. So if you look in the exhaust, I'm not going to walk over there and get it, but there was like a removable DB killer. And this is the total stock exhaust. And this thing actually sounds like a proper motorcycle. Exhaust, you believe that? So it was 3 volts, pulled it out. I'm sure some people will be like, well, it's going to run lean. Stop it. It's just still the stock pipe. It's still got the catalytic converter in it. So no worries about it running too lean. So yeah, I highly recommend getting a chance to ride one if you can. If you're in the market for a parallel twin, this is definitely should be high on your list. And I will continue to start my development. Like I said, I'll do some extensive dyno testing over the coming days. I'll be changing the oil shortly. So I've got about 5 heat cycles on it, and you saw just under 200 miles. So I'll do a couple more rides, a couple more heat cycles, and then I'll start doing my extensive dyno testing, and then I'll start mapping it out stock, and then we will see what we can do with this girl. So take a look over at the rest of the videos on my channel if you're curious about how I normally do development. Remember to subscribe and like button for more motorcycle related content. Really appreciate y'all. Thanks for watching. Take care.